right. Yes. I know there's a little echo. 1 second. We're working on it. All right, we're good. Okay, cool. All right, so welcome back, both to you all, but also to myself. I'm so new to this. I'm My wife is upstairs. Actually, we have a 12-year-old. He is sick today, and so he's also upstairs. And we have the newborn who is 4.5 weeks. And so we're just doing our best to support each other in in all of this. And again, hoping that things can go without a hitch. And so, definitely glad to be here. Looking forward to connecting with everybody again. Um, I definitely want to just say hey to everyone here. I see um, Donovan and Dana and Maria are here. How are y'all doing today? If you guys can unmute yourselves.
I'm doing pretty good.
Word.
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Great. How's it going over there, Maria?
Good, good, good.
Cool. I see you got the hair, you know what I mean, to the side. You ready to present today?
Girl, that's how my hair always is.
Like, listen here.
Oh, I'm not a hair person. I wish I was good at wraps like Dana over there, but I'm not good at hair wraps either. So you get some water and a go with me. That's the best I can do. I have always been this person. My mama has hated it, but I
OMG.
am who I am. So appreciate you though.
Uh, Word. I actually bought some wraps literally like a week or so ago, and I haven't even opened the package. Like, I'm so afraid of messing it up. I'm like, I'm afraid of this learning curve and being like, I don't know what to do with this stuff. Did you take a while to get a grasp of it, Dana?
No, this is the easy maintenance deal,
Mm,
and there's no rhythm or rhyme. And every time you do it, it comes out different. It's just, and typically, if I wear a wrap, it's because I'm having a bad hair day. So my wrap, I decide what wrap I'm gonna wear, and then everything else goes behind it. Which, yeah, so that
hmm
just makes life simple.
I hear that. I
And
hear.
there's no wrong way to do it. Like you just throw it up there and yeah.
Mm-hmm. See, I need to hear that. I think Maria needs to hear that too. Like, cause I'm like, I gotta get it right. If I don't get it right, I ain't leaving this house.
No, it's easier than a ponytail. I mean, literally. And
Wow.
when you put it on, it's right.
Uh huh.
Period. And typically, see, I'm like you. It has to be perfect, so I have to be in the mirror. But if I'm in the mirror, then it never comes out right. So usually I'm doing it as I'm walking around, and then I go to the mirror, tuck, pull, and that's that.
Right. I know what you mean. Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna give it a shot. I bought a 3 pack. One is white, one is black, one is like 10. And I'm like, okay, I can like figure this out. I've seen some. Honestly, I've seen a whole bunch. The ones that I've seen on guys, usually their hair is like super long, and so I'm like, okay, my bun is not going to be that big, but I'm just trying to figure out like the best way that I want to style it. But as you can imagine, I already know like there's so many ways that people make them wrap around their heads.
Zoom, not Zoom, but YouTube
Right,
wraps for men, and you have a plethora of options.
right. I already know. Yeah. I'm wondering too about the about on a hot day. How does it feel on a warmer day?
Well, you don't wear it on a warmer day.
Okay, just making sure because
Yeah, I mean, on a hot day, that's especially if you have hot flashes.
oh, okay, right. That's
Yeah,
another
that's
level
why
right there.
wigs don't work for me.
Hmm. I hear it.
It's
I
too
hear it.
hot.
Right. Cool. Okay, so I know that again we sent out the email this week. I know that We have not only invited, of course, the participants, people who are part of the program, but also the folks who we know that would be great for giving feedback. So I know I've personally reached out to folks in YCD who one either have presented already, or again do know about fundraising and sharing, programs and so forth. And so we hoping that they definitely can show up for today, as well as Miss Newton has reached out to some folks as well. So I know that we do want to have some not only familiar faces, but some unfamiliar faces that are going to give us the chance to, again, hear some feedback again from different perspectives. And so again, checking out, hopefully I might actually got to see what the phone is doing, but see if folks have the chance to hop on. Okay, I got to see that Alkeisha's here now too. Yeah. Okay. I know this last week, I'm sure you guys already know, but yeah, this last week has been like super trying to just put my head on, trying to be, in two places at one time, thinking about everything that's changing and thinking about everything that hasn't changed. And so trying my best just to figure this out. So we have a 12-year-old. I met my wife when he was 7. So this is the first diaper changing of my life. This is the first, you know what I mean? Up all nights.
Exciting.
Yeah. And so there's definitely a lot of adoring going on, a lot of just like fawning over her and like just being awestruck by the fact that she's here. And then there's there's like, okay, how do I manage, schedules, and how do I, communicate with folks and like work with, everything else with work. And so we're both trying to figure out paid family leave. That's a whole other obstacle that we're trying to figure out. And so, yeah, a whole lot going on that's we're just trying to do our best at this moment. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Let me see. Miss Newton's actually reaching out right now. Miss Newton is saying, "Do you see me backstage?" And I'm like, "I do not see you backstage." Do you know if she might have a different link, Naya?
I believe so. If she's backstage, I will send her the invite.
I know I had to go to the email that was just sent about 15 minutes ago. When I tried to log on to the calendar, it didn't allow me in.
Okay.
All right. I'll definitely update that. Thank you, Dana.
You're welcome.
Okay, nice. Interesting. Okay.
What is her name?
Her name is Naima.
He went, like he didn't remember.
Honestly, a part of me was like, who is she talking about? Because I'm thinking about work right now. But yeah, her name is Naima. we gave her two middle names because I am in love with one of them, and then I was like, we gotta mix it up a little bit. We can't just, So her first middle name is Imani. And I
Mm,
was actually fighting for that to be the first name, but um, I
you
had
lost.
my
Clearly.
right, right. I had to compromise. And then the second middle name is Ishel. And that's
Ishel with an E?
with an I, so it's Ixchel, and that's more of a indigenous name. And so I was like, okay, we could do this. Now we had the hardest time with getting her passport because they were like, that name is like so long, so like we have to figure something else out. I was like, oh, okay. But I definitely, we definitely love the first name Naima, so we're happy with that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. Where Um, okay. Miss Newton said, please resend the email. And so I'm wondering if she got it. And I see Tina still waiting on Miss Newton. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send it in Slack. I did send it on email.
Okay. I tried. But definitely thinking slowly, or not slowly, but in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, we gotta make some onesies over here. So there's some that I like. I'm like, oh, this is cool. There's some I'm like, I'm gonna get this fabric, and we gonna figure this out. Um, some of them, yeah, some of them are cool, but yeah, some ideas I'm like, I gotta get this sewing machine going and make a
That's
couple.
right.
Yeah.
So you are I don't want to call it crafter, but a creator.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I was actually into art when I was little, like heavy, and I loved art when I was little. I drew all the time. And in high school, I got into poetry. And that's when I started to do more of like the extroverted, the speaking and stuff like that. Um, and so to do anything, whether it's the hats, whether it's art, drawing, whatever it is, all that stuff is kind of just like coming from that same space within me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I also have that gift and that spirit,
Hmm.
but you have to I mean like it can consume all of you. Like if I get to the computer and start moving around before I know it, it's 4 o'clock in the morning and I have not gotten any sleep and I got all this other stuff I gotta do. And then I don't want to tear myself away from it.
I know what
So
you mean.
so you almost have to like delegate days that this is just this day.
I hear that. I hear that. Definitely scheduling it. 12 o'clock is my time, 12 o'clock. It's late, it's super early in the morning. I'm like, I have an idea.
Yeah.
And I gotta like remember it and like put it to the side and get back to sleep. But definitely, I know what you mean. Cool, cool. Okay, so right now we did just get Miss Newton on, and we also have a Francisco Gomez. She actually did send me a link. I'm sorry, a text about his bio, and so I want to read that to you guys. She actually says Francisco Gomez is my mentor and is president of the Mission Cultural Center of the Latino Arts. And so I do want to ask Miss Newton, one, would you like to chime in, just say what's up, and did you want to introduce Mr. Francisco at all?
Absolutely. Good morning, folks. It is wonderful to see some beautiful faces. I apologize. All you get today is my avatar, but I am here and very excited about the presentations that are taking place today. So thank you, Jermaine, for the opportunity to say hello. It is my absolute pleasure to also introduce Mr. Francisco Javier Gomez, who, yes, is one of my mentors, specifically at the State Bar of California, when I was doing quite a bit of writing and also presentation, volunteer engagement, and board oversight. And honestly, if I could be a carbon copy of anyone, I would like to be a carbon copy of him. His work is above reproach. That was his motto to me, always be above reproach. and paying attention to details. Francisco, would you like to say a couple of words to the cohort, to the Level Up cohort?
Good morning. First time I speak today, so you have that rough voice in the morning. I think she would like to be like me without the beard. What do you think? In any case, I was director of executive office programs at the State Bar. I worked there close to 30 years. And I've been the chair at the Mission Cultural Center since 2011. So my background is in the arts. So strange journey in the State Bar, but the Mission Cultural Center fits me because I showed there as a young man. And it was a kind of way of giving back to the community in that I grew up there and had my first shows there. So it's fruitful work, sometimes a little iffy. Because arts nonprofits have a harder time than social justice or capacity building nonprofits because people don't want to fund as much. In any case, that's enough for me. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing the presentation.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And with regard to the Mission Cultural Center Latino Arts, did you do acting? Did you eventually do directing? Was it, a number of different roles that you played there?
I was trained as a painter, so I did gallery exhibits. There used to be a well-known Bay Area curator named Rene Yanez. So I worked with him in multiple exhibitions there, their 25th anniversary, that kind of thing.
Nice. Okay. Cool. No, we were actually just talking about art and creativity too. So, yeah, just thanks for sharing that about your story. I also recognize we have Miss Nicole Quinto. Could you just introduce yourself? She's actually works with us at YCD. And there's Nick too. Are you there, Nicole? All right, she might be maybe busy, but and then we also have Nick, also works at YCD and is a program manager. Nick, are you there able to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Well, not quite afternoon. I'm still acting, still acting as if I lived in the Midwest. Good morning, everybody. My name is Nick. I have the pleasure, distinct honor of joining you all here this morning. Um, Congratulations ahead of time, but really just here to provide as much support as I can, not just on behalf of YCD, but also our fellowship programs, which provide opportunities to kind of retain some of that talent here in the Bay Area, supporting both college graduates and non-university attendees. But again, shout out to Jermaine. Kudos to you all. And however I can be of any assistance, I'm happy to be here for you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so I do know that we have two presenters today. I believe that we were actually going to get started with Maria. Maria, I imagine that you have a slide. Is it easy for you to put that up on your end, or do you need our assistance? Actually, you're muted.
Yeah, I can do it. Hold on, let me find it because of course I was multitasking. Blah 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 blah. All right, I've never done this on StreamYard, so please forgive me. Oh, let's see if I can add up. Oh, it wants me to upload the file. Oh, that's ugly. Share screen. Okay. All right. Do you see what I see?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. Is there a little bit of like an echo feedback thing going on, or is that just me?
Yeah, I don't hear anything else. You're good.
Okay, I hear a little bit of feedback. Okay, now I just have to find where that document is. See, that's the problem with these things. Now, where does it go? Because I can't move it there. Maybe there. Nope. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm gonna do it one more time just because I don't know where the document is anymore. Sorry, guys. One more time. Share screen. Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone, in hopefully the kind of sunny Bay Area. I'm in the Mission. It's a little overcast here, but I think it's going to be pretty warm today. My name is Maria Giudice. I am a San Francisco generational resident. I have lived in almost every neighborhood in this city. I went to elementary and high school. Shout out to anybody who is a Catholic school kid, and also went to public school. So yay, Lincoln High and San Francisco State. I am in the fellowship right now to put more, engine, more fire, more propulsion, more more push towards my project, which is a micro cinema. So for those of you who have never heard of a micro cinema is a small space that holds probably somewhere between maybe 20 to 40 seats, and kind of movie theater style, but it's really kind of focused on maybe more like a cinema club. It's small enough to kind of be under a lot of theater permits, but large enough to still host a large amount of films throughout the year, and kind of like very much community oriented. We don't have a lot of them in the United States, but there are quite a few of them in, say, like Canada or Europe. But I think San Francisco would be a perfect place for a micro cinema. And so this micro cinema I am calling the Black Maria Micro Cinema. And when you think about Black Maria, I will get to it in a minute. Think about imagination. So this is a quote from historian Robin D.G. Kelly. If you haven't read any of his books or listened to him talk, he's an amazing historian and intellectual. Anyway, he says, for a better world, we must first imagine it. And so as we think about that, I just wanted to give a quick background about myself. I'm a filmmaker. I've been making films in the city for about 20 years. I got my MFA from Cal Arts. I've been in some magazines. I have a short film that came out in 2008 that really focuses on gentrification in San Francisco. It's called Palm Trees Down 3rd Street. It was a part of a 10-year anniversary screening that included conversations on gentrification, Black migration, also climate change, and the rapid kind of like disintegration of parts of the Bay, and that is streaming online. You can watch it on Quality TV, but you can also watch it online for free if you don't have a membership there. I also made a film in 2020. I produced a film called Neptune Frost, which premiered at Cannes at the Fortnite section, and it's an Afro sci-fi musical directed by Saul Williams and Anizia Usman. So if you're a Afro sci-fi fan, you should really check that out. And my feature, Elephant, came out last year and it premiered at Ann Arbor. It's currently at festivals and still screening. And so that's a little bit about me. So back to the Black Maria. Black Maria is a name that I get called in the hood a lot because I'm born and raised in San Francisco, and there are a lot of Marias. And people usually signify me as the Black one. I know that's really funny and crazy, but it's always kind of like rung in my ear, especially as I became a filmmaker, because the Black Maria was the first cinema by Edison in 1893. So it was a cinema, it was a studio. It was also a place, just to like talk about the very early stages of cinema and what that could look like. And that's quite, funny in a weird upside down world where, racism and white supremacy exists, because Black people really contributed to those early days of cinema, but we don't have them very much in the history books. We don't talk about their contributions. So you think of somebody like W.E. Du Bois. He was a very early cinema tinkerer with cameras and projection machines, and really thought that he would also dive into movie making. And so we have, this past, which kind of excludes us up until maybe like the 60s or 70s, where you start having, Blaxploitation films, and you have big, one or two big Hollywood films. You have Gone with the Wind, which is one of the first Black actresses nominated in a Hollywood movie studio. But by as early as 1915, you had over 200 Black owned movie houses. And when we say movie houses, we're saying everything from like little shacks in the middle of nowhere that basically projected everything from newsreels to 30-second, film clips to a minute long or, 3-minute long movies. That's pretty much what movies were, back then. And so very quickly, I just wanted to show this it's like 30 seconds of this film that is the very first film with Black folks in 1898. That's how early we were in cinema. There's no sound or anything, so. Oh, I hope you can see what I'm saying. Let's see. And so that film is oops, damn it, I messed that up. So that film is the first film where you have Black actors that are playing Black folks, which is very rare for, honestly, film history, even up to today, where they're not caricatures, they're not archetypes, and they're not the same character, which is a mammy role or a butler role or a slave role. They're just playing Black folks having their first kiss, and these are Black actors from a local theater company. So that's huge, right? And this film was discovered maybe kind of during the pandemic, I think around 2019. And so that becomes one of the very first movies in Black cinema history. And so as we talk about that up until present day, we only have about, I'm sorry, I'm giving you guys a small education, but this is very important as we move forward. There's still only about 6% of Black directors in all of Hollywood. That includes, independent cinema, that includes avant-garde and experimental cinema. We only have less than 1% of Black women as directors in cinema. And even though we all know the names, Ava DuVernay, Issa Rae, people like that, that's literally it. And maybe you can name them all on one or two hands. We only have 13% of Black characters on screen, 2% of LGBTQ characters, 6% of Black film criticism writers, which is really important because we make all these films and we have all the film critics that don't really understand, how to write about Black film and what makes this film really important within the canon of Black filmmaking. So as we go on, how do you create a space that really can promote and not just promote, but also expand the space and bring more people into a place of not just cinema, but also Black imagination, which is really like the bigger picture here is like, how do you massage and how do you ignite Black imagination within a community? And that is within something like a micro cinema, which would be 40 seats in a physical brick and mortar space, also a virtual space that's centered on Black storytelling, but also radical and independent storytelling, so that it, includes the multicultural. It promotes like cross-pollination of ideas. It lets other cultures within, the adjacency of marginalization and all the issues that go on within our communities kind of talk and have discourse together. But also, it's a place for also education, community conversations, art gatherings, a community space, which I feel like we need in San Francisco, much more spaces where we can all come together and just talk. So as I said before, the huge piece of this is that there is a missing kind of market that exists right now, especially within Black global cinema, which is that within the larger distribution companies, they kind of dismiss this kind of global traffic of films, because there is kind of a belief that is not said out loud, but you can see it within the numbers, is that they don't share or they don't buy films that are from across the waters and bring them here to the United States, because they believe Black audiences really don't want to see global Black audience or global Black films, and films from overseas don't really want to see Black American films unless they're the top, Black American films. So you're missing a whole bunch of films that go to festival every year that get awards, and they just don't get seen. They end up getting shelved, or they end up, just getting erased and disappearing from our lexicon of films. And then you also have the same thing that happens with radical independent cinema. Anything that's not within like the censure kind of accepted space of filmmaking gets pretty much thrown to the wasteland. And we forget about all these amazing films that get made every year, and there's just not enough spaces to screen them. Even with streaming, people just miss them because they're more interested in making money, and to make money you pay the big Hollywood films and you don't pay these radical independent cinema. But now with the invention of YouTube and other online platforms, these films have just become really popular, and people are searching them out online, even without people like me, curators and programmers. So now micro cinemas are popping up more and more, and they really are able to navigate a lot of the economic kind of situations because they're small and they're nimble, and they're able to bend to different seasons that happen. And so if we see like a micro cinema, what does that look like? It looks like everything from a screening space in theater that holds 40 seats, but also a coffee shop, a lounge. It's a space, a rental space where people can have little corporate parties, or, I don't know, girlfriend get-togethers where they watch movies together. Also an art gallery to showcase cinema, art, everything from movie posters to lots of filmmakers or artists in many different regards, from sculptors to painters to dancers. So there's a lot of ways to show that art and to kind of promote that history. And then, of course, a store where we can make lots of things out of films. And you see a lot of the major distribution companies doing this. If you saw Barbie, you see what you can do with merchandising. And of course, there's membership, where within the membership, you would be a part of like not just the screenings, but the community gatherings, the community conversation. And there's also a workforce development piece to educate people around things like being an impact producer, which is a person who creates community conversations around films and adds those to larger social and political campaigns, a film critic. None of these things need degrees. It's just that there's never a space for anybody to teach them, but here's a way that you can give people pathways to have jobs within the larger movie space, and to really hit these numbers where you don't see Black and Brown people really in film festival spaces. You don't see them in film critics spaces. You don't see them in the larger like film arts admin space. And so there's a huge workforce development piece here. And then, of course, events like screenplay readings. And my bigger dream, which would be a phase 4 dream, is to have a place for film archives and preservation, because now with streaming platforms kind of falling apart, we're seeing just large libraries of films being deleted. And so we've seen over time, especially when it comes to Black cinema, those are the last films to get preserved. And so all those films that were on films have been lost mostly till time, which is why you're seeing like films like Good Negro Kiss or Something Good Negro Kiss like pop up, is because maybe there's somebody that has like a film or reel in their garage or something that has a copy of that. And so then it gets, finally preserved. But that's so rare right now. And even with the digital content, that digital content still needs a place to be preserved. And over time, those archives become really important to not just storytelling, but to cinema history, and making sure that we have a place within that history showing the films that we actually created and the stories that we actually told. And then there's a larger piece for books, which is like a huge idea for me, which is publishing screenplays, like something like Moonlight. Being published as a screenplay would just make so much money. Like, people want that, and that's just not something that happens within film. We don't really publish screenplays that much. And then, of course, film festival versus both in person and virtual. And so currently, I have been doing something similar to this for probably like 6 to 7, maybe 8 years. Who knows? It's those pandemic years that go missing. But I've been doing a class called Black Film as Protest, and the 101 Essential Black Films. So I'm an educator myself. I teach film in community spaces and in university. And when it comes to Black students, they don't have a very good Black history, a part of their curriculum. Black film is not really taught within cinema, or it might be taught more now, but I went to school back in 19 whatever, we won't talk about that, but back when I went in, and I still get this from students, we still get the same 5 white male cis het directors. We don't really talk about all the other directors that added and created this beautiful thing called cinema. And so I created this class, which really showcased about 25 films, and we screened every Thursday. And this went on during the pandemic, which is really useful for people to have a place to come, have conversations, talk about films from every decade, talk about actors that have just really influenced their lives and their parents' life. And it really becomes like an intergenerational conversation. And I would also say that most of these films are still relevant to this day. Like, issues that people were thinking about in the 60s are still issues we're thinking about in 2023. And so that's the screening series that I have been putting on, and I still keep it going. And I bring in directors for current films that are going on, and people really love it. And so then I kind of moved over to screenwriting and acting. And in the screenwriting classes called Screenwriting Rooted in Decolonization and Abstract Thinking, where we bring writers of all types to come and learn screenwriting, but also not just learn screenwriting from the traditional part, but also learn screenwriting from, cultural and ancestor oral tradition roots, which, Hollywood really frowns upon. But I think that's a really important piece of how we tell stories that are authentic to ourselves. And so there's a screenwriting class and there's an acting class. And every time someone takes one of these classes, they just are changed, body, mind, and soul. And so there's Another piece here, which is a consultation piece where I do fundraising and impact consultation to help people take their films not just to screen, but to community spaces and have conversations. And so I love to show this, which is just micro cinema, but inside it is everything from a hangout spot, a coffee shop, get a cold ice drink to catch up on the latest talkies or newsreels. And so as we see in this timeline, I started working on this idea in 2021. Last year, I really did a lot of funding and research, and I got my first 10K from the AAACC Creative Leadership Fellowship. And now I'm really trying to move into a brick and mortar and these very high real estate, even if you want to lease a place within San Francisco, trying to find a place that I can lease to really put this into a physical space. I still do virtual screenings and I still do my classes. So all that continuously happens virtually. And so as I look forward, it's really about those phases 2, 3, and 4, where I would build out, the workforce development piece, the archives, and the publishing piece. And these are the potential partners that I have right now. I have a long kind of history with Quality TV. I helped them, really in the beginning phases of starting the streaming company. And right now, Quality TV is the largest streaming platform for Black content. It outbeats HBO Max, it outbeats Netflix, it outbeats Hulu. If you're looking for Black content, Quality TV is your place to go. And then California Newsreel has been around for a really long time, but they are a distribution company really focusing on documentaries with a social and political context. And Code Tenderloin, I have been working at for 5 years, and we are a organization that really focuses on barrier removal for folks that are looking for economic well-being. So we do everything from workforce development to coding classes to case management. And the Urban Film Festival, I have been helping them since they first started also, and they're one of the premier festivals in San Francisco that really brings community and civic conversations to the people. And they're just a wonderful film festival that shows all kinds of films, but also has a space to actually have conversations that are really connected to the communities that we live in. And School of the Alternative is a organization I've been a part of maybe 4 or 5 years now. And they're in Black Mountain, North Carolina. I'm on the board, and we really try and build affordable arts education for students of all ages to come to Black Mountain for a week and, really journey upon your artistic path. And we make it as free as possibly can. We have about, I think about 20 scholarships that are focused on Black and marginalized folks that we give out every year. And again, this is a bunch of Black folks at the really famous Lafayette Theater in East Harlem. And you can see Black folks are hungry to watch and go to spaces that, reflect them. And so here's a budget right now that I have. And one of the big pieces of this budget is this space rental, because it's just so expensive in San Francisco. But I've been really hunting spaces for the past year. And pretty much everything that where I would like, which is next to a public transit space. So something along the BART line is going to be at least a 3-year lease. So that is the biggest kind of piece of my budget pie right now. And I'm still writing grants, and I kind of like sit down and write grants at least once a month. So I have a few pending grants right now that I'm crossing my fingers, hoping to get. And so for me, it's probably just like a slow build until I can reach this 240K so I can open doors. And so here's a small call to action. If you are interested in being a part of this mission to bring, Black storytelling to San Francisco, use this QR code and be an ambassador for us. We need people to talk about what we do. And that is my presentation. Thank you so much.
Just got here. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. We would also, of course, encourage folks to give feedback, again, from different perspectives, right? Just from listening and hearing, what is it that you liked about it, as well as the thoughts on, for different audiences, who are the other folks that would also want and need to hear this information, and some of their thoughts that they would, possibly get from a different perspective, whether it's a funder, whether it's someone who would be interested in partnering or something like that. Any first thoughts from you, Ms. Newton?
Maria, when we spoke the first time, I was very satisfied by what you had presented in your original presentation, and I said, "Don't work on it," and I knew you would. It has definitely it has legs. It had legs before, but now it was walking it, but now it's running. And I think that you understand exactly what I'm saying. You are an authority in this, and I had to do some serious research to just have a conversation with you. So I'm so glad that you brought up the beginnings of the original micro cinema, Black Maria, yourself into it. You brought life into it. So thank you. And I appreciate this QR code. I'm gonna check it out. I like that all you amazing young people are using these QR codes, and I have to get on with the game plan. But I appreciate that. I think that you can flesh out probably the call to action a little bit more specifically based on the audience that you are speaking to, right? And for the purposes of this, I think it was fantastic because, again, you're kind of introducing the concept, but say you are in community and you want to empower them as ambassadors, you let them know exactly what they're going to receive as an ambassador and what they get in exchange. Perhaps they get, a founding member membership. I don't know what that might look like, but really pulling people into, the process, being able to see, some of the work that you do. Excellent job. I'll get into the nitty-gritty details when we have our next session, but I just wanted to give you that as my first impression. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sweet, sweet. Mr. Gomez, can you give any first thoughts as well?
I have, I'm kind of the ignorant party that showed up to someone else's function. So I have some basic questions. How is Leveling Up seeking to support this project? How does that tie in with your end?
How does it tie in with our? Say it again. I'm sorry.
Yeah. What is the relationship that Maria has with Leveling Up beyond doing the presentation, soliciting assistance in creating the Micro Cinema Center?
So one with Level Up, we provide technical assistance and capacity building for people who are starting nonprofits. So we're here more so one to train them, give the information necessary to help them to improve their programs or to help develop their programs. In terms of what she's doing she's not doing something for us as much as we're here to support her. And she's showing again her work for the other participants that are aspiring to do similar work with their own organizations.
Okay. And so these presentations would be conducted independent of your auspices, so to speak?
Yeah.
And so would there be a component within those presentations that includes you? Say Jermaine would introduce, I'm from Leveling Up. We're endeavoring to promote this project. In other words, will you assume a sponsorship role of some sort and have a presence when she does presentations?
Interesting. I think that the answer is yes, but of course, I think it would be something that would be further discussed and understood. Yeah, along the line.
And so another question: the second presentation that we're going to see, that will also be presented independent of Maria's presentation, so they're
Yeah.
not tied together.
Correct.
Okay. I didn't understand if this was going to be a Leveling Up presentation, and now I see the individual components that are being presented.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. That was my question. I didn't really understand the context.
Okay.
And then for Maria, have you looked into getting funding from the San Francisco Art Commission? They have community grant division. I don't know the timing for applications, but for instance, the Bayview Opera House receives funding from the San Francisco Art Commission.
Yeah, that was one of the pending grants that I had on the budget slide is
Okay.
with the SF Arts Commission. So I just keep applying for them and waiting for them to come my way.
Yeah, I think they would be very interested.
Yeah, I pretty much have pitched, I think, most people on the SF Arts Commission. So
Okay. Those were my only questions. Thank you.
thanks so much.
Cool. So coming back to Nick, any first thoughts from her presentation as well?
No, I for me it's always kudos. I love art and I love Black artists, specifically when it's an opportunity to learn about spaces and mediums that I don't have great familiarity with, but I know that filmmaking is, one of those spaces that, to Maria's presentation and pitch, that we don't have enough representation in. Myself, I would love to find myself engaged with um, like a resurgence of Black youth art. Yeah, uh, Schoolhouse Rock meets uh, any of it. So just being able to hear not just what your hope is for the San Francisco community, but as I know Lila had also mentioned, the context and the history behind it allows us to feel a lot more informed. And I think the word comfortable is not the correct term, but a lot more appreciative of your efforts and what we can hope to see in terms of a brick and mortar place to continue providing that support. So nothing specific to the actual presentation or the details within it, as much as again a kudos to the effort and vision to continue to give us a platform to showcase who we are.
Thank you so much. And I just want to also note that, really really focusing on like Black imagination has really no age group. And there's a number of organizations in San Francisco that really focus on kids and kind of youth to about 24. You can go to BayVac, you can go to Bay Cat, you can go to a couple of places within the city and have that, but there's no place for like there's no place for adults, there's no place for elderly, and you have people who have a resurgence of their art kind of heart after they retired and actually have some time, and they're looking for spaces like this to like write again and to offer their selves to either an art form or a community. And so we're really missing on spaces to engage with those populations, and not to say like it's easier but working with kids like is a whole like kind of paperwork nightmare. not that this does not work with kids, but it's kids just aren't my focus. Like I pretty much teach grad school and I teach undergrad, and then I teach within the community adults of all ages. And I've had 75-year-olds and 80-year-olds come in and write and participate in the acting classes, and that influence also within connecting with people who are in their 20s and their 30s, that intergenerational space that's hey, let's all come in and make something together, and learn how to collaborate and learn how to communicate. Like I always say, like film is a place where, yes, we make movies and we make, really dramatic scenes and all, but literally my job every day is kind of to model how to communicate. And so when you write a screenplay, you really learn how to communicate really well. When you act and when you learn theater, you really learn how to communicate well. And so I think we need spaces that really hold, space for us to learn how to communicate with each other in a place that's really kind of ups and downs right now when it comes to media, right? And it's a place of, media education where how do we look at stuff that's on TikTok? How do we look at stuff on Instagram? How do we go to the movies and really understand like all these layers of images that now are being rushed at us, and we don't necessarily know how to articulate what our response to that in a world that's just going so much faster than we ever thought it would. And so we need more spaces of just media education, and that's what a good cinema degree is for, right? It took me about 20 years to realize what my cinema degree was for, but my cinema degree is because, what I'm really good at is critical thinking, especially when it comes to a world of, media, which is where we're headed to. And so we need to start catching our community up. And I think especially in a community in San Francisco that has such tech in it, it has one of the largest gaps of technology between brown and black people and poor people and people of wealth, and it's same thing when it comes to digital literacy. So this is another space that can do that work. I know you weren't asking that, but I just wanted to put that extra on it.
No, I'm appreciative of that for sure. And well, excuse me, I'll get with Jermaine. I definitely want to, get with you and work with you in some capacities as much as possible. So
Thank you so much.
I must jump in. I love the conversation, and Maria, I guess you in one fell swoop gave me my retirement plan. I know exactly where I'm going to be in your classroom, but I really want you to have a call to action for us. As I'm thinking, you had potential partnerships, you have funding needs. What can you map out for us is your next step? We understand that you want to secure space, but in the meantime, is there a way for you to use other spaces to start building momentum and interest? Would you take the Black cinema and do a pop-up in a space that might not be a traditional Black cinema space? Would you yeah, I'm just trying to put it, we've had conversations, like look at it from different perspectives. What kind of partnerships can you build organically through this process where you're doing this campaign? Because the campaign might be for a year, it might be less, depending on who you present this to. And I really think the sky's the limit. I already have a space that you can present at. All right. But I really want it to come from you and be driven by you. So you have a group of 8 people here, 9 people, because Naya is not an avatar today, but you have 9 people here that are excited and willing to support you. I want you to be really specific as you reach out to all of us, because this is your homework, and ask us what you may need or what introductions we may have for you. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm I don't know how great I'm going to be at answering that. You know, I'm a Taurus. It takes us a little while. We be a little slow, but perfect in our response. So I'm going to say one other thing first, which is yes to the spaces. So I will just say when I started this class, when I started doing my classes, I started out of a donut shop down the street from where I live in the Mission. This really amazing Chinese woman gave me free donuts all the time, and then I asked her to use her space when she closed up, and she was like, "Yeah, great," you know. And so I started there, and then I moved down the street to our local bookstore, Adobe Books, which was my first. I think I was there for like a year, and in the beginning, my screenwriting class was 10 weeks. And so, you know, it was a little different because I was a little younger then. And, you know, I was kind of like more into, you know, making films and not making money. So I could spend 10 weeks like having the classes. And so I went from there to having some of the film screenings within AAACC and another bookstore down the street, which is now called Nightmare Midnight Melon. I forget what it's called, but it's a bookstore that got taken over by somebody else. So that's like a newer space that I'm probably going to bring the cinema spaces, and then a cafe down the street. So, you know, Black folks, you know, you give us a space and we'll do something with it. Like, and that's the whole idea of the micro cinema, is really to be nimble. And when pandemic hit, we went straight online. So I've done 2 classes online for since pandemic has started. And then at School of the Alternative, I teach a class in person every year. And the only reason I've kind of kept it like that is because of the pandemic and because of COVID. We just keep everything really small and really nimble, and make sure I know those spaces and how safe those spaces are, to make sure that everyone feels like good and protected. And that's the reason why I want my big girl pants on. To get a physical space is a space that I can control and really understand like what those needs are for this, you know, ups and down world that we're living in of COVID and pandemic and any other kind of issues that we're having right now. Moving through lots of different spaces just becomes, in this day and age, a little difficult. It's a little bit more difficult. So I would really love my own space, or at least a space that gives me a residency for like a year, so I can like really understand what those needs are. And I would say the other really important thing that I do in all of these classes is, and people talk about it a lot, is about, you know, the community agreement that we really set up with each person. So I have a very long community agreement that we go over, and the community in the class, the participants in the class, help develop that community agreement to know how we are protecting each other, not just with COVID, but how are we protecting each other with, you know, cultural sensitivities? How are we protecting each other with language? How are we protecting each other with identity? How are we protecting each other when we throw our heart out into the room and we're expecting feedback, you know? And so that becomes a lot easier to do when you're in a space that, you know, gives you a little bit of a home, or a little bit of a light pillow to rest your head on for a little bit of time. So that's my huge goal. So I would say the one thing that I can do right now, yes, I can totally share that agreement with you guys. I would love to present this to more people. Like right now, I'm just in a space of like, invite me somewhere and let me, you know, present right now. Cause I think having ambassadors is really important. And those ambassadors kind of build, and you don't necessarily know where to use them up until the time you know how to use them. And I would say this because I've used ambassadors for the 10 years I've been a producer. And, you know, for Neptune Frost, we raised about $250,000 through crowdfunding. And that was through ambassadors. So we had ambassadors globally. And I just didn't even know how to use them at first. And I was just like getting them and compiling them. And then I was like, oh, you know, Saul's going to be in London next week. How many ambassadors do we have in London? Can we put an event together? And so there's a need right now just to gain people and to gain interest. And so I'm, you know, I guess my ask is like, if you got a place for me to like present my presentation, I would love to. I would love to just be the kind of advocate for cinema, especially Black cinema. And there are no Black cinema spaces within San Francisco. We have a couple that are in Oakland. But, you know, when it comes to actually theaters that are owned in the Bay Area, and that's a pretty wide net, none of them are Black owned. And so I don't even want to own a theater. I just want to have a tiny little space that I can kind of do my thing and really support the people. And that's the important thing about staying small, is that when you stay small, you can really focus on community and really focus on, you know, the interests of that community, and not be too big where you're not listening to them. I hope that answered some of your question, Layla.
Yes, Maria, and it's Lila.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You did a beautiful job. I put some things in the chat, but I know that we are coming up. We've already come up on our first hour.
Exactly. And so yeah, we can shift over to working. I'm listening to Dana. Do we feel the need to take a break at all, like a 5-minute break? Let me know what you guys think, and then we can yeah, let me know what you guys think on that. Anything in the chat? Okay, cool. So yeah, we can get started with Dana. I know that it's a whole thing trying to pull up a presentation. Do you have something that you need to share on your end, Dana?
No, I will be presenting from a verbal standpoint.
Okay, cool. So that makes things easier for everyone.
I can't try to do all that other stuff at the same time. Kudos to Maria. Wonderful job. And I love that first picture of you. It just is beautiful, and it so depicts your personality and your, yeah, I love it.
Sweet. No, I hear that. So what we'll do, we'll just pull people out of the studio like we did last time. So your face will be the only one on the screen. And yeah, you can share us your idea. I know we actually spoke about it earlier this week. So I'm already privy about what you're going to discuss. But yeah, you could bring it to the folks that have not heard.
Well, good morning, everyone. Get that frog out my throat. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dana, and I am with Total Woman Empowerment, the founder and executive director. So I want to tell you a little bit about everything, honing in on the Queen's Weekend Retreat. But so Total Woman Empowerment is an organization that works with women predominantly, although we have what's the word for it? We have a little hub where we also work with transitional age youth. But so we work predominantly with women around helping them understand how trauma, unrecognized trauma, has the potential to derail or change the trajectory of their pathway. And so with the organization, Total Woman Empowerment, trauma is always at the base of everything. So it may not be something that's overtly and in your face. Maybe it's something on the back end, you know, where that's the, what's the word I'm looking for? That's the source from where we spring, for lack of a better word. Within Total Woman Empowerment, we have essentially 3 programs. We have, again, the Women's Empowerment Workshops, which really hones in on helping women understand, again, their trauma, the effects of their trauma, and not so much trauma, but more unrecognized trauma. Because again, if you keep living, something is going to happen in life that's going to produce trauma. But understanding what it looks like and how it manifests in your life, and then how it derails you. We also have a program called Destined for Greatness that works with transitional age youth, 16 to 24, both men and women, and Black, predominantly Black. And then we have the Queen's Weekend Retreat, something that we do on an annual basis. This is actually the 3rd annual Queen's Retreat, Queen's Weekend Retreat that's coming up. So why do we, not why, but what is the Queen's Weekend Retreat? The Queen's Weekend Retreat is a created space for women to intentionally, that's been created for women intentionally to focus only on them, to focus on nurturing themselves and really giving themselves that recharge and that reboot that's needed. So we have a culture that perpetuates, and some of it is also innate. Like women, we our role in the world is nurturing, giving, caretaking, loving on those, and elevating and raising those. It comes from even when you have little girls, the first thing they want to do is, with their little dolly set, is set up a little table, fix food, have tea, easy bake oven, cook, clean. As little girls, we're kind of nurtured to take care of others, take care of your brother, and so that piece that's on the inside of us, so I need to stop for a second. Jermaine, can you come back to I struggle with talking to myself. I'd rather talk to someone, so that's better. So, again, we women, we're kind of bred and raised to take care of others. And so what happens in that situation, it kind of translates to the intentional, not the intentional, but it translates to the neglection of ourselves. And so women are a significant piece to the family, right? Like, we're a significant piece. And one of the concepts to total woman empowerment is that women shape the world. We shape the world by shaping our child, who shapes our home, who shapes our community. And that thing that is said or not said, that thing that is done or not done, when the woman is no longer present, it's still living and existing. And so it's important that we as women, that we nurture and take care of ourselves, because there's that seed element, that thing that's in the seed. When you plant it in the ground, everything that's connected to the seed grows up. So you follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that we do what we can to reverse that cycle that culture has kind of taught us to care for everyone else and start caring for ourselves. So the Queen's Weekend Retreat is about creating a space, and creating a space that's exclusively for us, to take care of us, not our children, not our husband or our wife or our job, whatever the case may be. Now, a part of that process, we work towards identifying, what kind of queen are you? So there's the queen that kind of leads from the throne, if you will, kind of leads from the back, the front end. That might be the ED, that might be the director, that might be those who kind of lead and coordinate organizations or systems, not so much organizations, but systems. Then you may be the queen that leads from the back, kind of like mom. Mom is every woman, right? She's raising her children. She's caring for her partner. She might still be working a job. And it may not necessarily be from the executive position. It may be from an administrative position. It may be from the back end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the foot soldiers, those that get their assignments and they're out and doing their thing. Mm-hmm. So first we want to kind of identify what kind of queen you are, and in doing so, by identifying, then you can kind of understand how do you best take care of yourself, right? Because in the world, we have this 24-hour clock and all these things that have to be done in this time frame. So how do you balance you in all of that? And so while it's not about you, it is about you, because nothing happens without you, meaning you, the woman. You know, so how do you keep you at the center while also making everything else the center, right?
Right.
So give you an example. I've decided that I'm going back to school. So now school is going to be the most important thing. So how does that come in the middle and everything else go around it? Does that make sense what I'm saying? You follow me?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm a image person, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier. And so I'm literally thinking about like a galaxy. I'm thinking about the sun, you know, and how central the sun is to everything. And then I think about how, you know, on Earth, there's a relationship with the sun, but there's also the moon, right? So there's like all these moving pieces, and there's a way that we can operate that allows us to be taken care of while taking care of everything we have to take care of. And yeah, part of the process is trying to figure out how to do that simultaneously.
Simultaneously. And so a part of that, it's important that we, like women, we do certain things for ourselves, right? Like we go get a mani and a pedi, we might get our nails, you know, filled or whatever the case may be. We'll go to the hair shop, we'll take ourselves shopping, maybe get something to eat. All of that is self-care, but it's kind of like a reflex. You know, a reflex to something being done. It's not always intentional. Like I'm not a reflex. You know, I'm intentional. I was created intentionally. So I have to take care of myself intentionally. You know, I have to be intentional about that. And I'm about to kind of switch reels, but I'll come back to it. Typically, at the end of the year, we take time. Okay, the end of the year is closing and we're starting a new year. So let me reflect. What have I done? What do I want to do? But again, that's a reflex, right? It's almost like, okay, it's kind of like a traditional reboot. No, we're not traditional. We need to move away from the traditional space. I need to be intentional about stopping, reflecting, connecting with like-minded people. Like in the world, we say gang recognize gang. In the scripture, we say iron sharpens iron, right? So I need to get around those people where I can sharpen, where I can throw my ideas to, or just have an authentic conversation and get some authentic feedback and discussion. Another reason why I can't just talk to a screen, I have to have somebody I'm talking with, right? I need to take time to intentionally, spiritually explore, like evaluate where I'm at in my physical, evaluate where I'm at in my mental, evaluate. And so we do a program that's designed to ask you where you are. How long have you been there? Are you satisfied with where you are? And it's neither good nor bad. It's simply an identification. Like where I'm at, my acknowledgement of where I'm at is neither bad nor good. I'm not saying I'm in a bad place or a good place. I'm just acknowledging, where am I? When I go grocery shopping, I'm doing an inventory. What do I have and what do I need? And why do I need it? Right? So I'm doing an inventory of myself continually, because my work is not, it's not one day, it's continual. Like my contribution to the community. And when I say my, I'm not speaking so much about me. I'm speaking about my as the race, not the race, but my as women, Like our
Mhm.
contribution is not one and done, it's continual, even when we're gone, right? Like, so my mother is still the things I always say, I am my mother's child. I mean that. That means everything that she deposited in me is still there, still operating.
Right, right.
And so
Can I ask one question before we
absolutely.
proceed? Like even bringing it back because you just made a reference to your mom. Can you share with us a little bit about what brings you to this work, what inspired you, um, one to do it, and the experiences that make you go, "This is what women need," or what I could have uh, used, had I had the program or in these opportunities.
So I hope, okay, so what brought me to this work? Well, October 24th, 1986, while under the influence of crack cocaine and operating in my trauma, I made a horrific decision. And as a result of that decision, I committed a crime and was incarcerated, convicted and incarcerated for over 25 years, 25 years and 330 days to be exact. And I could tell you the number, but we won't go there. And while incarcerated, throughout all of the things I learned about myself, I realized that I was not born in that one decision, right? So like I wasn't born, the decision was the totality of all of my experiences, everything that had been said or not said, everything that had been done or not done. So it was the totality that manifested that one day. So while incarcerated, I did a lot of self-work, and I came to understand that my trauma had been operating in every sense of the word. And so I had to get to a place of how do I unlearn and how do I continue to live and not die from the trauma I've experienced. And so that birthed Total Woman Empowerment. It birthed that because, again, my grandmother, she was washing my son's hair one day. And as she was washing his hair, he was like 3 days old. She was telling me, she was shaping his little head because he had a little cone hair. She said, as you wash his head, you're going to gently massage it. I'm mashing, but you're going to gently massage it. Poor child. You're going to gently massage it. And in that, many years later, I realized that women shape the world. And that's how that concept came up. And that's what I believe. And so upon my parole in 2012, I'd actually started doing the work while incarcerated, empowering women, working with women, facilitating groups, and just doing a lot of work. And there's a model, again, going back to where are you? Like I had to come to a place before I could start doing before I could start helping anyone else, I had to understand where I was. And so I had to find out, where are you? Like, how did you get here? Like, how long have you been here? Why are you still here? Where do you want to go? What does that mean? How do you get there? Like, what are you willing to do to get there? And those questions, or that motto, it's universal. Like everyone can apply that. And that's not to say you have to be incarcerated to apply that. You just have to be a person that's willing and have a made up mind that you just have to be a person that's doing continual self-evaluation and awareness. Like if I took my little phone and walked around my house, you'd see all these poster boards and it's really curriculum development. But okay, so why are you here? And maybe that might be because of lack of awareness, or maybe lack of education, or lack of resources. So fast forward, once I paroled, I started working with all women because like I wasn't incarcerated with Black women, I was incarcerated with broke women. And so I started working with all women, but what I realized in working with all women is that Black women had the greatest need, the least resources. When I say the greatest need, I mean they had the least resources, the least direction, the least doors open. And we've been culturally bred to, and I don't want to use the word bred, but we've been culturally shaped to women don't complain. We woman up and do the work that's needed to be done, period. Right? We carry because it's necessary, period. Like we have a strength because we've always had to have a strength. As little girls, we've watched the things that's been done. And we've also watched our mother do what needs to be done. And so sometimes our strength is our detriment. And queen, all of the queens out there that I'm speaking to, today I need you to not be strong. Today I need you to not allow your strength to become your detriment. Sometimes our greatest strength is our greatest weakness, right? Like I keep going no matter what. So I realized Black women had the least resources. And so therein lied the work with Black women in leadership. I don't have the capacity to have an ulcer, an aneurysm, a heart attack. I don't have the capacity to do that because what happens when the great work you are doing dies with you? That means the community dies with you. Are you kidding me? No, we can't do that. So, that birth Queen's Weekend Retreat. This place where you identify what kind of queen you are. That you are crowned queen in real time, like you receive your crown. And that's symbolic, right? That's symbolic. You have your crown, you see it. That means when you're doing everything, sometimes I have to say, even when I know that the project has a deadline, I have a deadline and it's right now. Turn the computer off, go get in the bed. I'm a TV person. Go turn on the TV and just zone out. Zone out so that you can allow all that extra stuff to just get out your head. Allow yourself to go to sleep. Cut off the thoughts, because sometimes I'll go to bed and the thoughts won't go to bed. I'm still up. I got a piece of paper next to my bed and the pen. Stop it. Because when you die, the work dies. And we don't have the luxury of that. So again, and I could go into all the little nuances and all the little details of what we do on the Queen's Weekend Retreat. But Queen, you're going to have to come to find that out. I will tell you that this space is you, not your children, not your partner, not your job. All of those things will exist, I promise you. I remember, it's a funny story, but this was the early 70s, or maybe the early 70s, mid 70s, and my mother went to jail for 3 weekends. That's when you could go to jail for a weekend. And we continued to be okay. We ate, we bathed, we did, we would continue to be raised. We played, we did everything that we do. the family, everything will be okay if you take time for you. You know, and so now the Queen's is not a one and done. It's something that must be continued, right? So we do it annually. A part of that is lodging, like as the coordinator or a person who's developing it, I'm responsible for getting lodging together, lining up facilitators, marketing, food, buying the items, the retreat materials. There's a lot that goes into it. And it costs. It costs. You know, it's really difficult for me to ask for, it's difficult for me to ask for money, period. I don't know where that comes from, but it is. But it can't go on if I don't have the funding for it. This particular, we have a Queen's Weekend Retreat coming up September 8th through the 10th. And it's in partnership with Standard Peace International with Siobhan Hunter and Total Woman Empowerment. We have 9 attendees at this time. So our retreat is up to 18 women. And that includes the person who will be providing the service, who comes in to provide the service. But at this, I was saying, we have 9 participants. That means we have space left for you, Queen. If you would like to, if you're interested in taking some time for yourself, you still can go to the website Eventbrite and type in the Queen's Weekend Retreat. It'll come right up, and you still can register. It's $175, and that pays for everything. Now, it's cheap. $175 is very cheap, considering everything that's, you know, the lodging in and of itself is over $4,000. And the reason why it's inexpensive is because I want to make sure no one is not disqualified for lack of funding. We have without going into details, we have some women who's lost children. This is the space that you need to be in. Now, no one is coming as an executive director. No one is coming as an administrator. No one is coming as a chief of staff or none of that. You're coming as who you are. In this space, you get to just be. And there'll be women to nurture you the way you nurture others. You nurture the community on every level, right? Like emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. They will be there intentionally to take care of you. As mentioned, the price is $175. If you're someone out there who know of a queen that needs this, you don't ask them, you tell them, you get them the ticket and say, happy birthday, Merry Christmas, Happy Easter, just because, and everything else is taken care of. I just need you to get in the car and go to this place. Also, if you have a need for transportation, we will provide transportation. If you're someone who's able to carpool, you will be compensated for the transportation and just supporting another sister and getting to that space. I want to make sure I cover everything. And so you can sponsor something. And we always, always, always need sponsors. Like I say, I struggle with asking for help for myself or for others. I get anxiety. My stomach starts bubbling over and all kind of stuff. That's why creating a PowerPoint, I probably wouldn't have showed up if I had to do that. I have to just come and just be authentic in the person that I am and tell you about what's going on and ask you, do you believe that it is important to support women in doing the work for themselves so that they can do the work in our community? And if you answer yes to any part of that, then I'm asking you, how can you support total woman empowerment, specifically the Queen's Retreat, and not so much this one, or not necessarily not this one, but how can you? What are you willing to do? How can I help you to help us? To help us. And let me also say, let me just be black. Point. Did I say point black? That's a Freudian slip. Let me be point blank and say, we need your help. Help us.
Mm-hmm. Word. Thanks. Thanks for sharing that. A big question that arises just to kind of kick it off, that we even, are discussing here as part of Bubble Up, is what does one ongoing support look like, but also what are some of the things that have come up as ways that, once the retreat is over, I'm acknowledging that you mentioned that, it's not just one, but that people are encouraged to return annually. What types of ideas have emerged around supporting the women in the meantime?
So we, again, as I mentioned, this is in partnership and collaboration with Stand in Peace International and with Siobhan Hunter. And we do many healing circles. Stand in Peace does many healing circles. And I just encourage referrals, for that. I am available on request to do a mini workshop, and to do workshops. And again, we want to continually be in a self-evaluation place. Again, asking myself where I am is neither bad nor good, but it's like, what time is it? That's neither bad nor good. It's just identifying what time it is. Mm-hmm. And then as long as we're still living, there's always room for progress. And then, so a couple of things, as those of us who are, and do I dare say the word older, those of us who are more seasoned, more mature, keep in mind that we are the blueprints, the fingerprints, and the manifestation for our babies, for our younger generation. What are we manifesting? Because the thing that's said or not said, the thing that's done or not done, whether you believe it or not, is being watched and repeated. One of the things I do is what happens when Big Mama stops sweeping the porch? Now, Big Mama's kind of got lost and diminished through our evolution, through our generational evolution, and through the crack epidemic, right? We lost Big Mama. We lost Grandmama. We lost that woman that was in the neighborhood. And I don't know, I'm 54 years old, and anything I did or did not do, my grandmother would know about it. And it's not because she saw me, it's because other neighborhood Big Mamas saw me. And before I could get home, the news was there. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't call me to them, like I could be getting off the bus, going down the street, come here. Ain't you Sister Hall's granddaughter? What is this that you got on? I know they didn't send you to school like that. But we've lost that. Mm-hmm. And because we've lost that, our generation, our younger generation of women, not all, but we're losing the value, we're losing the worth. We're losing that position. I was having a conversation with my cousin, and we was talking about my aunt, who's now the matriarch. And when she dies, who becomes the matriarch? Well, you're not just the matriarch because you her child, or because it's not just you, it's not a hierarchy. No, you have to be that matriarch. And it's not because you've grown into years. No, it's because of who you are in the community, like your virtue. So we're losing our matriarchal status. So I was saying all that to say this: as older women, we have a responsibility to our younger women. And so a part of the workshops, one of the workshops I do is I am my sister's keeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I am my sister's keeper. And so I am available to do after the Queens Weekend Retreat. I am available to come in and to give a workshop. And that's from corporate to the hood. Because the information is relevant. It's just about what audience am I speaking to? Am I speaking to the hood? Because if I am, I'm going to use a different language. Concepts will be the same. The way I present it will look different. Then the other thing is I do it. It's an experiential activity, right? Like I'm not just talking to you, or you're not just talking to me. You're actually doing the activity, and there's something going on the inside. That process is going on, and so yeah. To answer that question, I am available to do workshops upon request.
Mm-hmm. Word. Again, thanks for sharing.
Did I answer your question? I guess I got long-winded.
Yeah, no, that's real. That's real. And honestly, some of those things are things that, of course, are going through my mind. Again, parenting a newborn and thinking about all the things that are going on around that we can, or that we had that support, the communal support once upon a time. Honestly, I don't recall a lot of that. Even myself, growing up in the 80s and 90s and thinking like, no, like who had that authority to really say something? Maybe one person on the block, and it was an older guy. But yeah, it wasn't everybody, and I know that type of accountability can go a long way. It can go a long way.
Even the churches, like I'm 54 years old. I don't know how old you are, but certain things did not happen when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
On Sunday, it was church. The church was packed. Didn't matter what football game was going on. Wasn't no picnic going on. No. And it was an all-day thing. It was like, oh my God, as a kid, I dreaded it. Are you serious? We going back again tonight? We was there all day. My God. That was just the truth of the matter. As a child, I didn't see the value. But the neighborhood was a neighborhood. It was a community. And everyone, and I always say this, I always say this when I see a child and they're just doing their thing. Every mother is responsible for every child. Like it doesn't matter that ain't my child. I walked into a Starbucks, a Subway's one day, and this young man had his feet up on the table. And before I could make it over to the counter, I said, "Get your feet off that table. You know, Big Mama wouldn't allow you to have your feet on the table. And we live in a crazy world. I could have got bopped or anything."
Yeah.
Feet off the table. And I proceeded to go over there. and order my little thing. And then I went back to him and I said, thank you. Thank
Mm.
you for acknowledging that, because you could have responded any kind of way,
Mm-hmm.
but you responded accordingly. And
Mm.
so a mother is a mother everywhere they go.
Yeah.
And a mother, I don't care whose child it is, when you see a child, the mother is, that's the only thing that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that's permitted or contained. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so when I was growing up, big mamas was everywhere, and it didn't matter whose child you was.
Mm-hmm.
So we've lost that.
I hear that. I hear that. Miss Newton, you want to chime in at all?
Did I go too far off? That's why I'm a conversationist person.
Dana, I just appreciate your heart, how you come to this work. You know, I was looking up sometimes I like to use these terms that apply maybe to traditionally maybe a structure or government, so seat of power. So I see your individual seat of power, your authority comes from your lived experience. I don't know if you felt the shift when Jermaine asked you the question, how do you come to this work? You you transformed, you leaned in. It was as if you were telling the services and the offerings that you have and the organization, and it was separate of you. And so start with you. That's the most power and the authority in which it was inspired and created while you were in experiencing
Okay.
additional trauma. So it's informed.
Okay. I hear that. So when presenting, start with me, because that allows for a segue, if you will, a shift from me to the work.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it gives context for you to speak about total empowerment, women empowerment as the umbrella, and then the various ways that you go about addressing systemic trauma that is held by women. And then you get to speak about your mission that no that women should not be absorbing other people's trauma.
Yes.
Then you can go through all of the various, service, the nuance of the services, how you approach it, because I see that you do it in a 360-degree manner.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
so I did not see the vision, mission, that no person would be the product of the recipient of another person's trauma.
yes, I
Mm.
think that's very powerful.
Okay.
And in terms of going along with you in your journey, because you're storytelling, and I know that that is something that you use in the work that you do. Start by telling your story and the evolution of TWE and how one service begets another. Because when I look at your website, ooh, it's polished. It has all the workshops, it has everything. That is you. And I know this was more of a conversation between you and Jermaine, but also think about the call to action for the audience that is in front of you. And I appreciate that personal invitation to the Queen's Retreat. That I felt like, oh, I started getting really excited because it was very directed action. You wanted there to be interest in, even if it might not be right for you at this moment in time, how may you gift it to someone else? And so the next level would be, and think about the people that you're working alongside with in this community. Perhaps you might invite them. This might be the opportunity for them to change their course and embrace healing, right? So I know you have that in you. We can work on structure and flow, but what I love is that you come to this so authentically. Nothing can replace that magic. So you have that. That's it. I want to invest in Dana because I know that Dana can move the needle in the community. So that is the hardest thing to, I think, capture is the respect and trust. And I think that that is inherently what you have and why you're positioned to do this work. So we can go offline and talk about structure and all those things. You have all the components,
Okay.
but really it's about you and probably distilling the most important points of what TWE is and then what is the call to action depending on the audience. And we talked about asking for money. It's not asking for money, it's informing individuals about an opportunity to invest. We talked about it and you start getting fired up. So you know that this is something that you need to put under your feet and move beyond because you got to take center stage with this.
Yeah, I like the way you just framed that too. This is an opportunity for you to invest through sponsorship.
Yes.
Mhm, mhm,
I'm writing that down.
You have it inside you.
Thank you.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Anyone else? I'm thinking, of course, about Francisco. If you have any thoughts.
Hi, Dana. I agree with a lot of the comments that Lila made. When you spoke about yourself, your story, it was extremely compelling, and that really captivated, and it gave cause for your intentions to do the work or your intention to do the work. So that's really valuable. Um, I also you have to consider when speaking, and this just take it or leave it, who your audience is. So if it's for a funder, creating structure and identifying different program points and what you hope to achieve with those, that's valuable. If I'm a participant and I'm attending your retreat, you can keep going. It's wonderful. I would be inspired if I were sitting there listening to you. So just always consider your audience. Who are you speaking to and for what reason? And then the last thing is, I loved your phrase. So when you spoke about supporting women to do the work in the community, and that's a really valuable phrase because it ties to the funding. Because they're empowering women, and then empowered women are able to do the work in the community. So that's a great hook if you're wanting for people to invest in your endeavor.
Mhm.
Okay. I have one question. You said because you kind of zoned out in the feed. You said for funders, um, and then I couldn't hear you after that.
Yeah, it's been breaking up throughout our conversation. Yeah, funders are different. In sure, I think your story is really valuable in that context. But in terms of what they're interested in investing in, is what Lila referred to as what structure, what programs, um, how do you effectuate your vision.
Okay.
And so and then if I were in the audience retreat, everything you said for the last half hour or so would be of value. It would inspire me. But a funder may be looking for that little piece. And I thought that you encapsulized it by referencing the support for women to do the work of the community. Because in empowering, you're creating a positive positive roles for the community. So I think that was really good.
Thank you.
Mhm. One thing I just wanted to add too was at some point too, you even brought up and mentioned your mom. I think you even mentioned your grandmother, even including that as part of the story. Um, to on the other end, bring back the questions around how powerful community is and how powerful community was, and how powerful community could be when we all begin to take, if you will, um, agency over, what we are seeing in our neighborhoods, and how we can have an impact in our, I would say in our generation, but I'm really thinking on other generations as well. um, but yeah, definitely including the full breadth of that. Speaking to what both I'm sorry, to what Francisco was just mentioning. I think of like even having names. You mentioned the names of the events. I'm even thinking about names of the various activities. You're mentioning how there will be some self care happening there. There will be activities that bring up again like where they're at. Even just bringing in some of the names. Sometimes the names could be particularly creative, but just whatever it is that helps people to have an idea of, if you will, the breadth of the weekend retreat. It's one thing to mention the costs and the fact that there will be activities, but just kind of having, um, part of me is thinking about an itinerary or a schedule, but to some degree, bullet pointing what it is that will be what will be happening throughout the entire experience.
Okay, so I understand. I think I hear you telling me at some point, kind of share, maybe not all of it, but some highlights of the things that'll take place, like we do the crowning ceremony. There's the different activities, if you will.
Hmm.
Okay, the massage, the different. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then you spoke to. um, I believe I hear you saying, as it relates to my mother and grandmother, kind of speaking to the contributions that they made in
Hmm.
my life and also in the families, in the community's life.
Hmm. 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 Yeah, yeah. Anyone else like to share? I'm actually wondering, Maria, if you can chime in at all, just given what you were just sharing and kind of the thought process that you had around what you were sharing. Any thoughts about her presentation in light of that?
Yeah, the number one thing I was thinking, Dana, is that you should share your website. It's so good and polished. Like, as soon as I went to it, I just started clicking on it. So, even if you don't have a PowerPoint presentation, I would just scroll through like some of the main pages, like your front page that gives great images of Black women in a circle with their crowns on and smiles. That image is really powerful. And, we're image people. So we really take these images and we store them. So we love images, and then click onto the about page and, click onto some of the workshops and classes that you do that can help guide your conversation and your talk with folks, and so that you don't get lost too much in your storytelling and you can stay kind of on track and keep people along the pathway, which is give me money at the end of this, which is like our pathway, right? It's like, hey, somewhere stick your email address in my little box and to give me money. So you just gotta stay on that, because we love you. We love the work that you're doing. You're a powerful speaker. You're just so engaging. And once you start telling your story, I'm captured, and I just need to see the actual tangible thing that you're working on.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for the feedback. This is great feedback.
Hmm. Hmm. And I've actually seen that too, where someone did just use their website as a means to express what the organization does. Sometimes even the history of the organization. again, the various programs and such. Again, given that you would have likely, it sounds like, images, you're going to have things that are explained. Maybe there's some numbers, maybe there's some, again, names of different programs and stuff like that, where that would just help to bring more clarity around, oh, this is what she meant. This is what's going to happen. Oh, this is what that looks like, you know? And so that's totally an opportunity as well to add to your presentation completely.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sweet. Anyone else like to share or give any feedback?
Hi, Dana. This is Nick. Just wanted to thank you again. Storytelling is really important to me, and anyone who's willing to be transparent and vulnerable in the sharing of their story, that always deserves a level of appreciation before any type of commentary. So thank you. Two things, and a lot of it is echoing some of the comments that have already been shared. I would wager that I might be the youngest person on this call, and I mentioned that from the standpoint of you had used Big Mama as a term frequently and familiarity, and I think without my own personal knowledge of us as a people and our story, I didn't grow up with a Big Mama figure, and so I would encourage you to just be mindful as you continue to present and continue to make this offering. You'll start to see a generational change. And I think while the sentiment is still important, you may lose quite a few people in the concept of Big Mama if you don't expand who she has become, if it has become anything in our current world. I would almost wager to believe that the new concept of Big Mama, less in terms of who she really was for family, is really now assumed by the auntie. And again, just that auntie title for this younger generation, of it being a woman that is tangential to family, maybe not of blood, but really trying to be in that supportive role, either through fun or, providing guidance. The second thing, and I'm putting it in the chat now, I'm really big as of a few years ago in the shifting of our language from trauma informed to healing centered. Sean Jenwright, who's actually at SF State, I believe he's still at SF State, really started to coin this term or phrase, healing centered education. And while we still engage in the fundamentals of our trauma, it doesn't serve as our primary lens or prism for how we go about finding healing and recovery. And instead, our ability to just shift our language immediately constitutes a level of positivity that trauma typically doesn't. And so I would just ask you to at least think about it as it relates to your retreat, any future presentations. But your story, and piggyback off of Lila, your story is everything. And all of it should center around your ability to take the listener, because you're, as you mentioned, you're a conversationalist, to take them on this journey with you, of you, that allows them to see themselves in Dana, because that is the family, that is the culture, that is the village. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you again.
Thank you for that feedback. I will say very good points. And illuminating that for me, because you are right. Big Mama is no longer Big Mama. Big Mama in this setting is now auntie. Auntie. Why? Yeah, I agree 100%. And thank you, because that elevates me in helping to connect. And then the other thing, so I typically try not to use the word trauma, because I notice when there's such a reflex, a resistance reflex that comes from that. And so I normally use adverse life experiences, but I am going to check this out, what you sent, the healing centered engagement. I'm going to look at that, because I think that will also elevate my delivery of information, because I want you to understand what I'm saying without shutting down because of a phrase.
Yes.
Thank you.
Of course.
Anyone else? Any other thoughts?
How are you feeling, Dana?
Stoked, if that's a feeling. Yeah, I am, after you speak on something, you kind of thinking about, gosh, I didn't say that. I didn't bring content to that. You were going too many places. You didn't connect. I'm thinking about all the things that I could have did different or better. Let me use the word better. But I feel satisfied. I feel satisfied because I delivered and there was feedback to make me better. So I feel satisfied.
I love that.
And I was even able to ask for money in the pitch. I probably could have came a little different, but remember, that's one of my barriers. And so just the fact putting words to it, everything becomes easier the second time.
You feel supported?
Yes, absolutely supported. Absolutely. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Sweet. So yeah, again, thank you all for showing up. Honestly, a text message. Oh, okay. 1 second. Okay. Cool. I have a question over here from Alkeisha. It brought up the question. She brought up the question around who was asked to present, and if there would be other opportunities to present. And so actually, I want to say I will definitely be talking with Miss Newton about that. But any initial thoughts on that, Miss Newton?
Yes, this came out actually out of the agency that Miss Cheatham and Miss, is it? I need to pronounce your name correctly, Maria. Is it Judice?
It's Judice. It's French.
I want to say Giudice, but
yeah, it's
okay.
It's Portuguese, Italian.
It's Portuguese. Yeah. Okay,
but it's Judice, as in Creole people from New Orleans.
Wonderful. Okay, Judice. So thank you very much. It came out of their agency. They reached out after the fundraising module and asked for feedback and met with me a few times and just took opportunities and kept emailing me and getting on my schedule, and their persistence for that support and brought something tangible that I thought that, wow, they have shown the initiative and they're ready to share. And sometimes you create opportunities. This wasn't a requirement, I think, that was laid out, in the original curriculum, but sometimes you need to create that for yourself. So I think that this kind of shows what you can do for yourself and level up when you invest in Level Up. So that is my short answer to that question.
Where. And so yeah, honestly, we'll be talking about further planning for the graduation, which will be happening in a few weeks, and so we'll definitely be in touch, and yeah, explaining what it looks like and if there will be those opportunities as well. But again, I'm so glad that everyone who showed up showed their faces, provided their support, their thoughts, and feelings about the work. And so definitely looking forward to connecting with you guys more later on. And yeah, if you guys have nothing else to say, again, I will be connecting again next week. with our luncheon with the funder. And then again, we'll be having our graduation within the next couple of weeks.
This has been perfect timing because I applied to be a presenter in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's called the Association of Female Offenders, and I applied to be a presenter, and my hopes, I'll find out by the 31st, tomorrow, if I was selected. Yeah. My hopes is to have an opportunity to go and present. And this is in front of like 400, 500, a bunch of people. So thank you, everyone. So all of this feedback, man, this is top-notch feedback, right? Like, can't get a better coach. So thank you, everyone.
Awesome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. We'll be connecting with y'all soon. Thanks again for coming today. All right. Let's see.